okay? So the arbitration exchange date is today, meaning that players can exchange numbers with teams or they can settle. And Mark Feinsand says, per source, Mookie Betts and the Red Sox avoid arbitration. They settle for $27 million. That breaks Nolan Arenado's arbitration record of $26 million. So you can either do what Mookie does and settle with the team, and then that's your contract for the 2020 season, then we know he's a free agent after this season, or you give your number to the team, they give a number back, and then they go to arbitration later on. Mookie Betts did well for himself, Bernsey.
Set a record.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I think that we're talking about just ridiculous numbers now in arbitration, but at the same time, I also think we're seeing some players go through it, such as like a Mookie Betts. That's just, usually you don't see someone like that go through the entire process all the way to the end. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in free agency going forward. But, you know, I think this, in some ways, if there was a last chance effort for the Red Sox to try to sign him beyond this year, it would have been right now.
You know what this also tells me, though? Mookie Betts is in a position where he can go to free agency because, Mike, he's already made a lot of money. It's not like he's going from nothing to everything once he gets to free agency.
He definitely has, you know, and the Red Sox a year, 2 years ago tried to lock him up, and I think he took the approach that he's betting on himself, you know, and I remember Mark Grace would always say, if you want to get paid the most, you go year to year, but just don't get hurt. So Mookie Betts kind of bet on himself, and it's paying off because going into free agency, you start at the bottom of the barrel at 27. You know, it's not like he's going down from there. So things are looking pretty good for someone like Mookie Betts.
I mean, you're starting to look at the floor, I would say. Bryce Harper getting $330 million. Mike Trout got $430. So maybe somewhere in that range for Mookie after this season if things work out for him.
Yeah, I think the future's bright from a financial perspective for sure. The key here, you said it with this $27 million, it's a record. I think once you get to the record point, there's really no need to go duke it out in a room and go through all that nastiness. He has done it in the past, and you have seen in the game there are players that are more willing to go ahead and go to a hearing, which is very difficult. But in a scenario like this, when you've got the record already, they've agreed to it, nothing to duke it out about.
What's crazy is, Bernsey, we don't even know if he'll be on the team for the entire season. He's been in some trade rumors throughout the offseason. The Red Sox might want to cut some money down, and Mookie's making the most.
We could see him get moved before the season. You know, ultimately this comes down to, if I'm a Red Sox fan, and I'm kind of take this perspective, but it's like, man, you know, I realize they try to get him, but this in some ways is almost a final dagger that says Mookie Betts will not be a Boston Red Sox beyond.
You think because we don't see an extension, it's just this 1 year here?
It's just, it was a last chance effort, I mean, in my opinion.
Now, they could still talk to him throughout the season.
They could, and that's, you know, Mike was right. Like, you want to maximize your value and you want to bet on yourself, you go year to year. There's no question about it. And I love Mookie's approach to go ahead and financially maximize his value. But ultimately, I would say as a player, it's where do you want to play? And if you
we don't know that.
Well, if he wanted to be a Boston Red Sox and he really wanted to stay there, he would have signed a contract already. But, you know, all that said, we're looking at a $300 to $400 million player for next season if he hits free agency.
And he's only 1 year away at this point, so it makes it more tempting. And when you look at what's gone on for the superstars in this offseason, when you look at Garrett Cole and even Anthony Rendon and your Mookie Betts, you're going, this might be the time to strike for me.
Oh, when I see those deals happen, I'm like, yes, if I'm Mookie Betts, absolutely, because he's in that category, if not a notch above, I would say someone like a Rendon on an AAV value. You know, it's just the numbers become staggering, but if that's the market you're in, so be it. You know, but when we look at the Red Sox, I think this whole luxury tax thing is kind of like a self-imposed cap that they're doing themselves because this team won the World Series 2 years ago. It's not like they're into rebuild mode. Do you want to get under the tax? Yeah, I get it. It costs more to have more money when you're over that threshold. But Chaim Bloom's in a tough situation. You know, like, if you trade Mookie Betts, whether it's before the season or at the deadline, what are you hoping to get? Something that remotely looks like what Mookie Betts would be like? Well, you're going to fail in that no matter what. I mean, the odds of you getting that return with those dollars attached to his name are real tough. So I still think that team's good. You're almost at the point where you got to play it out because we can't keep our prospects for 4 years. Like Lindor, you can't say, oh, he panned out, our number one pick panned out 4 years, now we trade him because now he has value. Well, okay, let's run out the 6 years. If you're that good and competitive, run out the 6 years.
Yeah, and the Red Sox, right, they're going to be a competitive team. So if you get to the trade deadline and they're not, that's when you can look to make a deal. Okay, so before we move to the trade, just give me over-under $400 million as a free agent next offseason. Over, under. I'll start. I'm going slightly under.
I'm going under as well. 400 just crushes me.
Over, under, Bernie?
I'll go over just for fun.
No, I'm going to go with the under. Got to stay
Under?
rational.
Okay, 3 unders and an over. Mookie, you're doing fine.